kid-centered or family-centered, and lack of transparency about club financials, fundraising dollars. But our largest concern about Mark Murphy is after hearing about his alleged retaliatory treatment of children from 2 other families, it previously raised concerns about him. We did, and still do, support asking for Mark Murphy's resignation. When we connected, David heard via email with 7 other families who expressed displeasure about Mark Murphy's management.
Great, nothing, excuse me, how much more do you have, because we've got a lot.
Just action.
Okay, thank you.
Proposed plan resolution. Action 1, change the AFC policy, procedure, and bylaws to provide more transparency of financials and operations of the board. I expanded on these in the handouts. Action 2, we ask that the CSA board review our statement and the statement of others to determine if Mark Murphy is present and past actions can constitute a pattern of behavior that is abuse of authority, retaliatory, and harmful to children and families that raise concerns about club management. We believe Mark Murphy's actions were, per the AFC bylaws, an abuse of authority. He has been enabled to act with impunity. Our primary goal should be to provide a safe environment for our kids to play, grow, and love soccer. I'm encouraged to see that Coach Peter knew when he got the call from Mark Murphy to kid out players that are in practice. This could be very damaging to the player and their teammates. We need a director who understands the safety and emotional well-being of the kids come first. Mark Murphy's actions have caused emotional damage to my 11-year-old daughter. Another parent from my daughter's team advised us that his daughter was very upset after watching my daughter's expulsion and kept asking why it happened. Multiple children witnessed what Mark Murphy did to my daughter and may be wondering if something like that may happen to them. We have heard allegations from 2 other families that this event may reflect a pattern of behavior. We have encouraged these families to share their experience directly with CSA. The CSA can hear first-hand accounts and investigate whether this is an isolated incident or reflects the patterns of practice. CSA board also finds that Murphy's actions were abuse of authority, that he has harmed children. We ask the CSA board to remove Executive Mark Murphy, appointed an interim director from among the staff at AFC, and not from the current members of the board. Advertise an open call. Allow qualified applicants to present themselves to the entire membership in an open question and answer session with AFC boards. The new director should be voted by the entire membership and not appointed by the board, a small committee. Action 3, we ask the CSA board to investigate the actions of David Stewart. David Stewart's actions were unprofessional and per the AFC bylaws may constitute an abuse of authority that erodes trust in the AFC board. David Stewart has a pattern of threatening families who ask about the leadership of the club. This would be harmful to CSA, AFC, and the community we have agreed. The CSA should remove him from the AFC board. If David Stewart is removed from the AFC board, we ask that David Stewart and the family not be removed from the board. Kids do not deserve to be harmed because of the actions of their parents. Action 4 is just, if you take the above 3, we'd like to reinstate it. We'd like to also consider this.
Thank you, Greg. Dave, you want to come
Understanding this, I'm not going to read the letter. So this is a letter from Jennifer Jackson on her perception of what happened in that day.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, I'm going to try to talk very, very fast and cover a lot of ground here. So, I know everybody over here. I just recently met David Huerta, even though he's been here for 3.5 years. I've known the Hartman family, since we moved out here. It's been almost 4 years. At the beginning, in the spring, they asked our family if we would rent their home so they could move into the home that they're buying in the spring. So I think I had a pretty good relationship with the Hartmans, right? I've known Ross since I moved out here. He was my first daughter's coach. I thought I had a pretty good relationship with him as well. I've done a lot of nice things for Ross and his wife. I like them personally, and it's unfortunate that this type of situation has had to evolve. As a parent of 5 kids who play in the club, I didn't ask to be on the board. I was asked to be on the board because they couldn't get people to volunteer to be on the board. So 4 years ago, I submitted a letter, I got elected, I was on the board. 2 years ago, I wanted to leave the board. But I couldn't leave the board because the guy who was the president of the board wanted to leave the board. So I felt like I can't abandon the club, I can't abandon the board. So I said, fine, I'll run for president for 2 years. My term is up in December. I didn't resign from the board a month ago. I didn't resign from the board a year and a half ago. And I'm going to ride out my term. And I stayed to protect the club. And I stayed for the kids in the community. That's why I'm on the board. Everybody who's on the board is a volunteer. And contrary to what you may think, the board members are not compensated. They do not make any money. They do not get free registrations. There are some board members who have coached, who have received a coaching salary that they're entitled to as a coach. But we've never received the money because it covers the cost of the registrations for our kids. This year, I'm not coaching. Guess what? I get no coaching salary. I pay for my kids to play. Okay? I'm not stealing from the club. Mark Murphy, as the director, is not stealing from the club. And it's interesting to me that I know a lot of you people, and I know a lot of you people who are sitting in the back. And I've known you for years. And not one time has anybody said, hey, can I talk to you? Can I have a conversation with you? I've been hearing some rumors. I've been hearing something's going on that's inappropriate. Not one time has someone approached me. 4 years almost that I've known you. Not one time. Not one time. I feel horrible. The board feels horrible. It was an absolutely regrettable situation that happened to your daughter. We apologized with a letter immediately after it happened. We also had a meeting on Sunday, and I did a public statement apologizing to your daughter, which I forwarded to CSA. I also said it to everybody to let you know how sorry we were that the situation happened. But no one at the meeting Sunday wanted to address how we got to this situation. I don't understand why you're so angry at me.
Listen to yourself.
I don't understand. I don't even know you. I don't even know you, and I went and met with you for 90 minutes to listen to what you had to say because I thought maybe there was something out there that I wasn't aware of. And I asked you to give me specifics, and you couldn't. I asked you to put me in touch with people that had some kind of dirt on the ED, because if there was dirt, I'd like to know. Because I'm the guy who's responsible for protecting the club. And you didn't. And then I followed up with an email the next day and asked you once again, please put people in touch with me, because I would like to talk to them. And I have not heard one person reach out to me or been introduced by you. Now I have a list of emails here, some of which were sent to me by you, and some of which were forwarded to me by other members in the club. On October 2nd, which is almost a month ago, I saw Rubio do that once on TV. On October 2nd, I was in Nashville on business, and I got an email at 7 o'clock, and it was from Mr. Hurd. And he was rightfully upset because he had sent an email the week before to the board, not to me, but to other members of the board, and he had not gotten a reply. I was unaware of it because I was not on the email. A week went by, October 2nd, he sends a follow-up email. Mark Martin, who is not here tonight, who was the president for 2 years, reached back out to him and put me on the email and apologized for not getting back to him. I jumped into the email chain. But before I could, I got an email that said, I've reached out to many parents in altitude. We are ready to do what is needed to replace Mark, even if it means bringing the press and governmental entities into this issue. Not trying to disrespect you and the board, you volunteer your time. My beef is with the person running the club. Is it time to pull in the press? I'm sensing protection of Mark. Bad decision. I think Altitude deserves better and have documentation that the IRS and the public will go absolutely crazy over. I can't say that Mark runs the club well. He's not a leader. He seems to be running the program into the ground. Many other people think Mark has an ego, and there are better leaders who can more effectively run the club. You have to wonder if Mark's intent for the club is pure or if it's self-serving. Mark didn't reply to me. I also heard, pure hearsay, that Mark tried to bid on the Vail property that was at the golf tournament. I had not even yet spoken to Mr. Huerta. Then I got a second email. I wouldn't want to have the reputation of being a crooked club, as one parent will testify to. The ED is not a leader who supposedly knows how to run a club and seems to have control over the board and power stands up to him. I'm not afraid, and neither are those that have been impacted. If you don't fix the bleed, we're going to send notice to local and Denver press on October 10th that Evergreen residents are holding a press conference regarding a crooked club. If you don't want this, then we expect action to remove Mark from his position. Once again, I have not yet had a conversation with Mr. Huerta because I'm in Nashville. I am in the process of emailing many Altitude parents based on your acknowledgement there's a problem. Parents are tired of lack of leadership and being pushed around. I have no fear. I have 100% support from current and past players. I've only been in Evergreen for 3 years, but apparently the problems have been around for much longer. Girls should have proper attire. Once again, I have not yet had any conversation with Mr. Huerta. He's upset because the girls on our program wear white uniforms. They wear white uniforms. And I asked him when I met with him, that later that next day, I said, did you talk to the U.S. national team? Did you talk to the other 40 clubs that are in Colorado that wear white uniforms? What is the problem? I do not understand. There are hundreds of families with documented issues you'll be interested to hear. A true leader understands how to protect the club, protect the finances, and understands that female players should have proper attire. At this time, I have not yet met Mr. Huerta. This was all sent, a series of 4 emails was sent on a Tuesday night, October 8th, while I'm in Nashville. So I replied to Mr. Huerta and I said, hey man, I'm sorry. I apologize for what happened. I'm flying back tomorrow. I get in at 4. I will meet you at 5. It takes me about an hour to get off the plane and drive to Evergreen. So I offered to meet with Mr. Huerta for 90 minutes, it turned out being. Before I could even make it the next day to my flight, I got another email from Mr. Huerta saying, I just received notice that you and Mark are very close friends. It's been inferred that you protect ED. If this is true, then I don't even want to meet with you. If you change, we'll meet. Otherwise, I don't have time. I told him I'd still like to meet. We will not stop until it crushes Mark. Letters, emails, calls, documents. So glad we're finally standing up for a club. I don't have any respect or fear of Mark's influence. We're strong and unified. Please forward this to everyone you know in Altitude and everyone that's left to give their child the leadership deserved. The press conference is scheduled for next Thursday. I've notified ownership of this event. I still hadn't met with Mr. Huerta, and I got 4 4-page emails going off on information I had nothing about.
Are you close, David?
I am close. We're talking about facts here. And my point is this, is that I've got all these emails and I'm going to give them to you, okay?
They have them already.
I've got a problem, okay? My problem is I've been trying to protect the club. 2 years ago, we had 2 members run for the board. They got put on the board in December. Those 2 members were given financials at the time they joined the board. Okay? 4 months went by, and I started to hear reports from people that those members were taking our financials and having meetings with Ross Fowler and another member, another person who was not a member.
Deflecting. Deflecting.
The conversation was, hey, why don't we start our own club? I can't believe how much the club is making. How much revenue is
Oh, come on. Come on.
Then,
I have to take it.
It was myself that wanted to start a club.
Let's just
I
get
changed
through
it.
this.
It was me that wanted, my wife and I that wanted to start a club.
But this is not
So then the,
Just let him finish, and then you.
then the conversation became, hey, rather than starting our own club, as we know CSA wouldn't allow it, right? Because unbeknownst to me, one of the board members reached out to Peter Mason and had a conversation with him and invited him to coffee, which I just found out about a week and a half ago, okay? They decided if we were to put another board member on the board, we could take control of the board.
That was from JJ.
And then we could remove the director, and we could input Ross as the director, and now we have the club. And that was what was presented to me. Now I'm going to say something here, and you're going to be upset when you hear it. This gentleman right here, Caleb Williams in the blue, he was brought to us as being another board member who would join the board. And he was brought to us by the two board members who are no longer on
I've
the
got
board.
email documentation that JJ brought.
Okay.
to the board. And we had a dinner with JJ.
And we met,
You gotta be respectful.
Yes, sir.
They got to say the facts.
Be respectful and wait your turn. Hey,
Let's
So
go.
here's the
Alright, you
What
just
what I want to say is this, is that we had a what I would consider as a club. I believe that we had a hostile attempt to try to take
Oh
over.
my
the
God,
club.
it's insane.
And it was about a year and a half ago. And when I became aware of it, I sat down, I spoke to the board members, I sat down with the two people who were on the board that were doing this, and I said, guys, I'm aware of what's been going on, and I'm going to give you an option. You can either resign from the board, or if you do not, we are going to have a meeting, and we will take a vote to remove you from the board. The two gentlemen immediately signed the resignation letters and left.
You're wrapping it up, so.
I am wrapping it up. My point is that that's something that happened a year and a half ago, and I felt pretty good about the fact that I protected the club. Now, we've got another situation, and I just want to draw this out for you, okay?
You're gonna hear next, so as soon as he's done.
I don't really understand what they want. And when I say they, I'm talking about this movement, okay? And the reason I say that is this. If you read the emails, which I'm going to give to you, you apparently have a copy of it, it went from, all in one night, it went from, I am a member of this club, my daughter loves her coach, I love the parents, I love the team, to, I don't think the ED is a good leader, to, the ED is on the tape, it's a crooked club, and we heard he runs the board, to, we heard that the board protects the ED, to, if the board is involved, then we want to remove the board as well, to, let's start our own club and wipe out altitude, to, we can't do that, so let's take over the club. And that's what we're seeing right here. And the thing is that I'm a volunteer. She's a volunteer. The three people who are not here are volunteers. I can tell you right now, none of us are enjoying being on the board. We haven't enjoyed being on the board for quite some time. And part of the problem is that no one wants to talk. Everyone wants to spend 3-4 weeks doing emails, going behind the scenes, and doing their little jockeying and making their plans, and then reaching out to CSA and trying to figure out how they can control things. That is destroying the club, and it is destroying the community. And it is sad. It is disgustingly sad. And if you don't feel that way, I'm disgusted for you, and I'm sad for you. There is an election process that takes place every year. We've already sent out announcements to the membership. The deadline for answering letters of interest is November 21st. The election itself will be opened up for the month of December, and it will close on December 22nd. And at that time, guess what? There will be a new board. And that new board will still not run the club. The ED runs the club.
That's the problem right there, Steve.
The board
Ding, ding, ding,
doesn't
ding.
run the club.
The executive director.
Okay? So my point is this.
Can we get?
Nobody, I repeat, nobody
Can you cut him off?
has a problem if you want change. I certainly don't, because guess what? I'm off the board in 8 weeks. Okay? Hey, come on, guys. I'm off the board in 8 weeks. The next group of people who come in, they're the ones who will make the decision. They're the ones.
Okay, next.
A lot of people that want to talk.
Gary.
But I think it's important that you guys
Can
understand.
we hear the rest of the members and for you guys? We've got about 25 minutes, and we need to, so anybody else
Gary.
that has not, we need you.
Oh, you need to talk.
You need to, sure, you're up next.
Yes, so my name is Gary DeWill, I'm a former board member. My statement was about 7 minutes long, I'm gonna condense it to hopefully around 4 minutes. I understand Stu's anger, but it all starts with the mismanagement by the executive director. That's where most of the frustration is coming from. We don't get responses to emails, we don't get responses to phone calls. We're being diminished, and especially from my perspective, I have recreational players. The recreational side, that's just, small peanuts there. We can focus on the competitive team. So I'm gonna go through a couple bullet points here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share, right? As a former, I'm actually gonna take my time, because I think it is important to go through all the things. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my experience as a former Altitude FC board member, recreational coach, and parent of 3 recreational players. My wife, who also was an AFC rec coach at one point, and I formally filed a complaint with your organization back in September 2017, which outlined our experience with this club as disappointing. As parents, we experience communication from the club that is unprofessional, disorganized, and very ambiguous. As coaches, we experience frustration from last-minute formation of teams, unorganized scheduling and rescheduling of games, and game day chaos, including scrambling for refs, playing on fields of different sizes, goals not secured to the ground, etc. As a board member, I experienced bullying, deceit, unethical and questionable tactics with no accountability. And yet you, AFC board, expect your members to be okay with this structure. You expect parents to scramble to get their child on a team after their request was disregarded, to know where to get their gear, and basically sign up, no questions asked. You expect volunteer coaches to know how to coach with no training or oversight, to track down gear, double-check schedules, reschedule games. You expect board members to do what they're told, to not question the decisions that are made, and to be okay with a lack of transparency to the community. But yet you expect nothing from the executive director on how to properly and professionally treat club's members. At some point, Altitude has to stop the blaming of parents and look at the dysfunction in its leadership. I'm talking about the recreational side of the business, and that is what it is. It's a business. After facing all the obstacles that parent and volunteer coaches are handed, I decided I was going to make my voice heard and join the board, because Evergreen deserves a better club than this. From the beginning, my connection with Ross Fowler came into question. But I will say it again, I'm an independent person with no agenda. What I don't think the board understands is that your members have come to my wife and me suggesting time and time again that we should start a new club. We never wanted to start a new club. We wanted this one to be better. Joining the board must my way of helping out the developmental program live up to its expectations. To understand the inner workings of the club, I started talking to other board members about how it functions. I thought I had some listening ears on this board, only to find out later that they were setting me up. Sadly, JJ is not here. I had a few conversations with her where she was not too happy with the executive director either.
JJ Jinja.
Yes.
No,
When I was at-
Jessica
no,
J.
apologies.
Jessica J.
I just wanted to.
Jessica J. Secretary. When I was asked to resign on June 1st, the allegations were such that I was in it to topple the board, none of which could be further from the truth. I also met with Dave Stewart one evening. I still think that was an enjoyable conversation with no bad intentions on either side. I asked him about the lack of accountability, and what I went home with was the message that I should be happy to have a direct line to the executive director. After this conversation, I was under the impression that the board may be open to publicly discuss some of these concerns, so I submitted a letter of concerns together with another board member, Jonathan Ramsey, to the executive committee. That was in May 2017. The executive committee is comprised of the president, the treasurer, and the secretary. Our list of concerns included things like reporting on and reviewing actuals, revenue and expenses, including membership numbers, regular auditing, records retention, executive director's incentive-driven compensation structure. We don't know what we pay the executive director. We don't know what the bonuses are based on. The lack of coaching support, relative importance of development versus competitive, and so on. So those concerns we submitted to the board. Threatened by the idea that Ramsey and I are talking to other members, digging into the club's operations, the board out of nowhere adds Mark Barton, the former president, back on the board. We had to vote on this electronically, and Ramsey and I abstained. On June 1st, 2017, I left a voicemail with Stu following up on our list of concerns, and he agreed to meet with us that night. For some inexplicable reason, it was Stu and Mark Barton that were there to face us and remove us from the board. No Jessica Jade, no Matt Castle to be seen. No other members were present. Stu told us, that's correct what he said earlier, that we were chasing change from the wrong angle, and he was convinced that we had meetings behind his back with the goal to topple the board and put Ross in the executive director position. That is not correct. That was false, and quite honestly, it is strange how obsessed they are with this. That is their basis for all their defenses. No questions were asked that evening, only allegations. They could have asked me any questions, but instead they decided to shove a letter in my face to resign from the board, or else they would publicly remove us in the next board meeting. Both Ramsey and I signed the letter. That's my biggest regret in this whole saga. They pushed me in a corner and threatened me, suggesting it was best if I leave quietly. I don't know why I gave in that night. I was shocked, and I wanted to distance myself from these unethical practices. It should have been a public discussion. This was a classic example of bullying and a very shady way of ousting people. Caleb Williams informed you at the time, Caleb sitting over there, that we did have a meeting in which he mentioned that he wanted to start a new club. We talked him out of that. You never bothered to cross-check. Hours and hours of sleep have I lost over your shady practices. You attacked my integrity like no one has ever before. You framed me as a backstabbing board member, one with ill intentions. You smeared me. You told people and coaches that if I had stayed on, this club would be gone. You spread rumors that I'm damaging the club's reputation. A lot of people have learned the facts over time. They have come up to me and apologized to me. To see these ousted families go through this cycle reminds me of how I felt at the time. You have no idea how much AFC is hated in Evergreen. And you have no idea how you have attacked countless people. I'm a little worried about you because it seems like you're going to lose it tonight. Huh?
Ken's spoken up to. Chill out.
Are you?
No, that was uncalled for. Uncalled for, dude.
You keep praising yourself for your volunteer hours. I have spent way more time navigating people through the mess that you created. I will continue to work with those that are in need for a better club and direct them wherever I think the kids will grow the most. For me, it really is about soccer. I'm almost done. Our job on this executive director-driven board was to support the executive director, not question him. Whoever put this structure in place created a safe haven for him. So my questions to you, AFC board, is why? With the countless complaints that have been raised about Burfine, why do you keep protecting him? What is it that you're hiding from us? Why, when I asked the treasurer, Matt Castle, for financials, he can only reply that he doesn't know where they're at, that I need to go to the executive director for that. Why is Burfine's pay an agreement between the president and the executive director? What do you base his bonus on? Why is there no system of checks and balances in place? Instead, member complaints go straight to the person who is at the core of it all. Why would the board allow their executive director to treat its members so dismissively, and unanswered emails, unresponded phone calls, complete disregard for organization, and total and utter lack of customer service? Why, when my team followed me to another club, will you not give them back their money, even though you've refunded members in the past? You know darn well that you have not invested a single penny in them. As far as I'm concerned, you still owe my team money. When people get no answers, they become suspicious. I have no evidence, but I think something else is going on, and I want CSA to find out what. I do not trust this board. Thank you.
The only thing I'll say is no personal attacks. It's unacceptable. I know everybody's passionate about what's going on, but we can't accept that. So, no more. You're planning on going next, right?
Yeah, I'd like actually for two, you do like 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, I probably won't need that, I don't think,
And
but
then
maybe.
Charlie Lynch after that.
Yeah,
I know.
Do you want me to-
So let's go.